A pro-Russian official is accusing Kyiv of targeting a river crossing in the city of Kherson. He claims 2 people were killed in Thursday's missile strike and 10 others were injured. That's happening as Russia conducts a mass evacuation of civilians from the city. Fred Pleitgen has all the details.
As Ukrainian forces press their counteroffensive in the country's south, Russia is resorting to what appear to be increasingly desperate measures in the areas they control in the Kherson region. Thousands of people waiting to be evacuated by boat. The puppet authorities installed by Moscow claiming they've already taken some 15,000 out of Kherson city. Why did you decide to evacuate, the reporter asks. I have a small child to take care of, you see, the woman answers. Russia says it's ferrying these people to safety. The Ukrainians say these are little more than deportations. Russia has imposed martial law in this and other areas of Ukraine controlled by its forces. The Russians say they are increasing the intensity of their mobilization effort. Russian President Vladimir Putin visiting soldiers outside Moscow and himself even firing a sniper rifle. And Putin's continued aerial assault on Ukraine's energy infrastructure is starting to take a toll. Ukraine's authorities announcing the need for partial blackouts in most of the country as intense strikes on power plants continue using cheap kamikaze drones, which Kyiv says Iran has provided to the Russian army. The spokeswoman for Russia's foreign ministry rejecting the allegations.
This is nothing more than a collection of unsubstantiated inferences and far-fetched assumptions that Britain and France are trying to build into a structure. And every time it all collapses in front of everyone.
But on Russian TV, this military expert and defense ministry advisor seemed to admit the origin of the drones, not realizing his mic was hot. He tells the host,
let's not shake the boat too much. We all know that they are Iranian, but the authorities did not admit that.
But the Russians are now admitting things are not going well on the battlefield. The top commander acknowledging his forces' position in Ukraine's south is, quote, tense. Fred Pleitgen, CNN, Kramatorsk, Ukraine.
CNN's Barbara Starr joins us from the Pentagon. So, Barbara, what more are we learning about the Iranian support there in Crimea and why it's impacting the U.S.'s speed here in response?
Well, what we know now from both the White House and the Pentagon is they've come to the assessment, the conclusion, if you will, not just that Iran is supplying drones to Russia to attack inside Ukraine, but that some number of Iranian forces have gone to the Crimea area where these drones are flying from to facilitate the operation there, whether they're training the Russians or just facilitating the operation. There have been Iranian troops inside Crimea. This is where the drones are being launched from. And as you say, these are drones that fly to a target, guided, and explode on impact. These are the drones that the Russian forces are using to some considerable effect in attacking civilian targets, power plants, apartment buildings, killing civilians. Now, the Ukrainians have been able to shoot down any number of them. So it's not like all the drones are getting through to their target, and they're essentially seen as weapons of terror to terrorize the population. You know, but make no mistake, there's a couple of things on the calendar that everybody's watching, and front and center is the winter weather is coming. So both Ukrainians and the Russians are going to want to solidify their battle positions and get into place if they need to wait out the winter. And for Ukraine, that means they are still pressing very hard, very understandably in their view, for an acceleration of that air defense capability. The U.S. speeding up the delivery of some of the air defense. It's promised also both the U.K. and Germany contributing to the air defense equipment being shipped to Ukraine, but Ukraine clearly feels in this situation it needs more and it needs it fast. Bianna?
Yeah, concerns not only about the drones, but potential missiles, ballistic missiles and surface-to-surface missiles that Iran may be supplying to Russia as well. Barbara Starr, thank you. Well, Ukrainian forces fighting to wrench back territory from Russia in the east have reportedly hit the Luhansk region with American-made rocket systems called HIMARS, killing 6 in 24 hours. That's according to pro-Russian officials in the region. But Russian attacks on the power grid in Ukraine have made daily life even harder for civilians. The country has lost at least 40% of its electricity generation, forcing scheduled blackouts nationwide. Joining me now from Kyiv is Kira Rudik. She is a member of the Ukrainian parliament and the leader of the Voice Party. Kira, it's good to see you. Thank you for joining us. You know, I talked to you during the commercial break and you said your fingers were crossed there because you're working on a backup generator. What is the situation there like in terms of electricity and power in the city?
Hello, Bianna. Thank you so much for having me. Well, indeed, we are on an energy saving mode. The whole country is actually at it. We know that in the evening, we are asked only to turn lights on in one room at your apartment. And this is what we are doing because there are so many facilities that critically need electricity, such as hospitals or critical infrastructure. And we need to sacrifice our own comfort to stay as united as possible to support who definitely needs electricity more than we do. I'm right now in a backup generator, and in Kyiv and other large cities, we have scheduled electricity outages. As of right now, 40% of Ukrainian energy infrastructure is either destroyed or damaged. And though we are trying to fix it, the attacks on the energy infrastructure continue, breaking what we already fixed. As of right now, more than 1,000 Ukrainian cities and villages experiencing electricity, either outages or just like complete blackouts. And this is what we are looking forward to have during the winter. So basically, Putin announced that this winter not only will be cold for us, but it will also be dark.
Yeah, President Zelensky warned that Moscow is trying to provoke a, quote, wave of resettlement by cutting off electricity and water. Are you expecting to see more Ukrainians, because they don't have access to these essentials in the next few weeks and possibly months, start to leave their cities again, as we saw the early migration there in February after the initial days of invasion into neighboring European countries?
Yes, we have talked to Polish and Czech officials that it is possible that there will be like another wave of refugees. It hurts us a lot, but people will be fleeing from cold and from inability just have a normal life, because there is a huge difference when you're sitting in a bomb shelter where it is warm and where you can have internet and where you can heat water, and the bomb shelter that is cold and dark. And especially it's terrifying for children because, you know, we started making it as a game for them, saying, okay, it will pass. This is what we are doing. It is temporary. But when it's dark, it's cold. It's a very, very, very scary game.
You know, all of this is happening while Russia is continuing to bombard your infrastructure there. President Zelensky has said that Russian forces have mined a critical dam there in the Dnieper River as Ukrainian forces are making more of an effort to retake Kherson. I'm just curious, given this strategy from the Russians right now as they are training these newly mobilized troops, are you prepared to not only have to focus on your infrastructure there, but for yet another round of perhaps intensified fighting once these troops are trained in a matter of weeks on the front in the east?
Yes, we are prepared on all the sides. We are also training our troops, and they are receiving trainings in different European countries. We are trying to regain as much territory as possible before the winter hits. And we understand that these next 1.5 months will be critical for us in all the matters, infrastructure-wise, battlefield-wise, and our ability of intercept the air missiles. You know, what is hurting right now is that on the 8 months of war, we are still asking and begging for the same thing that on the day one. Help us to protect our skies. Help us to make sure that it's only the battlefield where we have to be concentrated at, that we at least can make sure that our people in the peaceful cities are safe. And it is incredible that still 8 months later,
Yeah.
don't have this defense, and we still are afraid of the rockets and kamikaze drones that can come from the sky and kill us and whoever we love. This is so terrifying.
And it's terrifying to watch. I can only imagine what it's like to be living it there, Kira. The U.S. and the West have promised to expedite their delivery of air defense systems, but as you said, you've needed these for months now. Kira Rudik, thank you so much for joining us. Be safe.
Thank you, and glory to Ukraine.